I already know in my mind I'm going there to win and nothing else. Like, that's my mindset, and I don't let things get in the way and distract me of my goals and what I want and what I believe I can go after. Even as so much as my mother and father-in-law like saying, "Hey, let's go to have a Super Bowl party," I'm like, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'm focused, I'm driven, and I want it." And a lot of it is the mental too, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you're not mentally like strong and tough, this sport will eat you up. Even as good as you think you are, you can never be that great, and you always got to keep yourself humble, because you always got to strive, right, to be better than you were yesterday. And I say this my whole life, right? You, Rob, cannot physically make me move my finger. Only I can. So the power is within you.
Meet the Guest. Next chapter. Part of the Coach Robb Podcast Network.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Coach Robb Podcast Network. Meet the Guest Next Chapter, brought to you by Complete Med Solutions. Complete Med Solutions is a complete turnkey blood evaluation. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but most blood results are telling you whether you have a disease or not. We're not looking for the absence of disease. We're looking at the true health and wellness of the individual. So if you're looking for some turnkey, less than 14 days from getting your blood evaluated and then getting feedback from a doctor, we can do it for you over at Complete Med Solutions. Today's guest doesn't really need an introduction. It's beyond an honor to have this guy on. We've had the privilege of talking to his dad on our Navigating Amateur Motocross, talking about trying to navigate that jungle. But want to welcome to the show, Mr. Michael Alessi. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very well, Rob. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it, and glad to be here.
I can't thank you enough. We were just talking before we turned on the recording. So you're currently living in Jacksonville. You've got two beautiful little girls with your wife,
Yep.
and we were
23
just
years we've been together 23 years and married 15. It'll be 16 years in September. So yeah, a long time. I don't I you
congratulations.
wouldn't think that I've been with the same girl for, you know, over two decades, but yeah, we've been together for 23 years now, and got two little girls, and she's 8, and Raina is 8, and Avery just turned 4 last week. So it was kind of like a last minute deal. She said for her birthday, all she wanted to do was go on an airplane, and I'm like, done, let's go, book the flights. And I took both girls with me to my Arenacross, my GT Arenacross in Dallas, Texas last weekend, and they had a great time. And there was snow and ice, and they had amazing time playing in the snow and pushing them around in a little like sled, like a little box, and yeah, they had a great time. And surprisingly, I wasn't terribly cold. It was about 20, 25. But what made it fun was obviously the ice and the snow, and the girls just, we don't have that in Florida. We're hot. Right now it's whatever, early February, and it's tank top weather almost right now, and that's just Florida. We only get really just January of cold weather, and by February it's warm again, and then
Yep.
feels like summer in March, April. So
Yep, I'm just a little bit south of you. I'm between Orlando and Daytona Beach. I'm in an area called Sanford. If you come through Orlando, you've seen the Central Florida Zoo. We're right down the street from that, a couple miles. But we always say in Florida, there's two seasons, hot and hotter. That's all we've got.
yeah. In Jacksonville, it's like 90% hot, and then you get a couple occasional cold days in December, but it's still pretty warm in December. But January, that's our cold month. But like a light switch, February 1st, it's back to being warm up here. It's crazy. And I love it. I honestly, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. I've been all over the world: Australia, England, Ireland, Italy, France, Canada, Mexico, Hawaii. I mean, I love where we live here in Florida, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Is it safe to say that that's the first time the girls have seen snow and ice?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yep,
That's awesome.
yep. It was the first time, and they loved it. It was just like watching, like as if myself was a kid, like watching my
Yes.
inner self again, watching them through the eyes as they were playing in the snow, and it just brought all of that emotion. It was gratifying to just see the emotion, how much fun they were having.
Absolutely. And you get to think about this. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Let that sink in for a moment. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And that memory for them, they'll never forget that. you know, because being a Floridian girl, or girls rather, they've they've never seen it, and if they stay till they're, say, teenagers, they'll never forget that first time of seeing that snow and dad and
Absolutely.
mom slipping around, and like you say, in a box or a saucer or whatever. It's just the novelty of it is just can never be replaced.
Yeah. And honestly, like those are the memories that you take and carry with you. And like
Mm-hmm.
when she said she wanted to go on an airplane, I'm like, done. Book the
Yeah.
flights. We're done. We're like, we're taking them. So
Well, and we'll talk a little bit about this in today's show. Isn't it interesting? There's a novelty to become a pro, then you become a pro, then the reality of being a pro, airplane every week, testing bikes, photo shoots, autograph sessions. You want it when you're young, then when you get it, it's kind of becomes a grind. And then when it goes away, you kind of miss it. It doesn't matter who you speak with. We've been blessed to have Grant Langston on, Jeff Stanton, you know, and they all say the same thing. It's like you want it, you want it, want it, you get it, then you try to make the best of it, and then you look back and it's some bittersweet moments, you know, obviously when you start looking at injuries and stuff like that. But it's just the thing. It doesn't matter who you've spoken to. The story's pretty similar almost across the board. So it's good stuff. I don't think anybody who's watching this show needs an introduction on your background. It goes without saying you had tremendous success very early on. Give me a little bit of insight about your childhood. And when I ask that question from the standpoint of the man that you became, the champion that you became, whether Loretta's obviously that
well,
amateur.
champion. I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, go
champion
for it,
is
brother.
is described in a lot of different ways and terms, right? And I'm saying this wholeheartedly, right? Being a champion is awesome in dirt bikes or anything in life, right? The way I view being a champion is that I know I'm a good person, I'm a good husband and a great father, and for me, I've won the most important championship I could have ever won, and that's the wife that I have and a great family. Like it doesn't matter how many championships I may have won or could have won. I have the ultimate prize, which is my wife and my daughters, and that means more to me than anything.
See, I love to hear you say that because, like, I just started a coaching certification program. We launched it January 15th. And what I think is missing in our sports, I think that someone like yourself with a tremendous amount of experience, if I can provide an educational component, physiology, nutrition, sports psychology, and retain your experience, complement it with knowledge to keep athletes from overtraining, that's how we grow the sport exponentially. When I look at what you're doing, yes, you've got two little girls, your adversity, the trials and tribulations, the pressure, expectations. Wow, for you to be able to give that to your daughters, like no disrespect to anyone who's a father that's out there, but not many people can say that they've had the pressure cooker that you've had, whether it was the domination at the amateur level, the expectation when you go pro. We'll take the one that everybody talks about when you refer to Mike Alessi. You interview 100 people, 99.9 are going to say Mike Alessi's good starter. So it becomes that ironic twist. Like I used to do some work in the PGA. When Chris DeMarco was in a final death shootout with Tiger Woods at Augusta, it wasn't that DeMarco won, it was that Tiger Woods lost. And so for you, it wasn't, oh, Mike Alessi got the whole shot. It was, why didn't Mike get the whole shot?
Mm-hmm.
You let all that flow down to your daughters and all the garbage they're going to deal with as young women in this world. How many dads can have that kind of experience of pressure, expectations, blah, 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 blah? When you go back to your childhood, did you have that same model? I mean, most everybody in the sport knows your dad, knows how involved he was with both you and rest in peace, your brother, Jeff. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry for your loss with that. That's, very,
Thank you. I
very hard.
appreciate that. Yeah,
My
I
pleasure.
mean, to your question, I mean, my brother and I were pushed very hard. And honestly, like I feel like it was probably around when I got the Honda contract, which was I think about 10 or 11 years old, 12 years old, somewhere around there. That was where it was kind of like, okay, this is serious and we're going to go all the way. And I feel like the really dependent years of where you kind of know you're either going to make it or you're not was right at the teenage years, 13 to 15, right as we were getting on 80s and super minis. It was kind of like, this is the next step before we go to the big bikes. And putting in the work, training, running, bicycling, whatever it takes. And even at my age right now, I'm 38, getting close to 40 years old. And it's kind of funny you said what you said. Even just last night, which was Super Bowl Sunday, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, hey, do you want to come over to your brother-in-law's house to have a party. They're having a Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah party. And I'm like, no, like I get home, I got to do a 35, 45-minute recovery ride. Then I got to follow that with 15 minutes of stretching. So my body feels good. And then I do my ice bath and heat back to back. I do 2 minutes in the ice bath and about 5-7 minutes in the hot tub. And I do that 3 to 5 times. And I feel super good, recovered. Last night got IV, so I'm fresh and prepped for the week, which my wife, she does IVs, which has been a lifesaver for me. And yeah, today's Monday. I feel great. And then back to the track tomorrow to get my laps in. And then Wednesday will be another yoga stretching day, recovery. And then we fly Thursday and we're off to Topeka, Kansas for the last round of the Arenacross, GT Arenacross this weekend. And I already know in my mind I'm going there to win and nothing else. Like that's my mindset. And I don't let, things get in the way and distract me of my goals and what I want and what I believe I can go after. Even as so much as my mother and father-in-law like saying, "Hey, let's go to have a Super Bowl party." I'm like, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'm focused, I'm driven, and I want it."
I know we're only 10 minutes into this podcast together, but there's just a tremendous amount to unpack. And for the sake of the listeners, I'd be curious to get your feedback. You just mentioned that you're pretty much getting serious. You mentioned your first, and I think it's so powerful. It's not like you get a contract from ABC dealership out in Podunk, Iowa. You know what I mean? Full factory Honda, 11, 12 years old. I'm assuming a multi-year deal because you had a lot of commercials. I think you were part of the development of that 150. There was a lot that was on your shoulders. And here you are on the cusp of turning 40 in 2 years, and you're still going at it hard. I hope the listeners kind of hit the pause button in their brain for a moment and let that simmer. You're looking at, 30 years of staying on the grind. And I absolutely promise, Mike and I did not we didn't go through and pre-rehearse this conversation. I say this and scream this from every mountaintop I can in the world. The definition of overtraining is not absorbing the volume of training you're doing, whether it's 1 hour or 1 hour or 10 hours. At the time of this recording, we just had, Lindsey Vaughn just ate shit coming down the mountain with a torn ACL. And I did a social media post about, we say in the physiology world, the second injury is always worse than the first because you didn't recover from the first completely. Now, 100%. I'm not gloating in the fact that she ate shit. It's horrible. But and I even put this on the social media post.
She should have never been there, straight up.
Exactly. And what I don't like about it is you hear on Saturday night, they essentially endorse, they lift up the person that's riding out there concussed and with a torn ACL. And we saw a particular rider get concussed in, one heat race, and they red flagged it and they restarted it. And then he takes somebody out and that guy gets meta lifted out. And who paid for his helicopter ride and who paid for his extended surgeries? And what about opportunity cost of lost racing because you allowed somebody concussed back on the track?
I agree.
I'm sitting here talking to Mike Alessi, 20 years on the grind. And I think what I hope people will take away from right out of the blocks is accountability and responsibility. You could.
I take full responsibility all the time, even for like who I am as a person and the man that I am. And that's why I kind of alluded to like the championships. Like I've won my biggest championship off the track with my wife and my kids and being dedicated to my family. And I still work hard. I mean, so I broke my femur in March of last year at the Daytona Amateur Day. And just recently in December, when my buddy Brad was here from England, he's like, "Hey, let's go for a run." I'm like, "Okay, well, I've been running." And my previous like fastest time was like 8:30, 8:45. It was pretty good for me coming off my femur injury. And he pushed me behind me on my ruckus and I did a 7:07. I was proud of that. Like that was a fast mile. And like for me, like I knew that was good. I pushed really hard. And it just, even at my age, the dedication, the drive, and the focus that I still have, you're either built with that or you're not, right? At the end of the day, though, you have to understand your body and your training method, right? You can't overtrain because if you overtrain, then you go to the race, you're zonked. And for me, methodically, I've been doing this a long time and I know my body. You have to listen to your body. Your body will always tell you what to do and what not to do. And for me, like, I felt like, let's go do that run. Let's do it. And he pushed me. And that day I went to another level. and followed that up the next day by doing my yoga and my stretching, and just felt great. And even for my age, like I'm still very competitive and still feel really good.
Well, you think about it, and because I'm a physiologist and this is my wheelhouse, I sound biased when I make the comment, but I can't reach down your chest and replace your adrenals. It's not like a top end rebuild. It's not like I can split the casings and rebuild it, right? And I never can understand this. And I think this is why I'm so motivated in our sport to try to bring the knowledge of physiology and nutrition, because with our athletes that go to Ironman Hawaii, we always say it's much better to come there 1% undertrained than 1% overtrained. Now
Correct.
that's,
Well said.
and that's a peak once a year. It's the, first full moon in October. We know the date. We might have one other AAA race. Obviously, it's a qualifier to get there now, because before you could just, if you won, you could go back as a repeat champion. But what adds even more insult to injury is the fact that someone like yourself in your prime racing, out of 40 weeks, you might race 37 of those with a couple, one weekend off here, out of here and there. But here's the crazy part. We were talking a little bit about it earlier, about how moto is so incredibly intense. Like you said, there's not many athletes that can go that hard for 40 minutes, then give yourself a 1 hour break, then go another hard 40 minutes. And you even joked about the soccer player, right? I would love to see a soccer player with a helmet, full jersey, pants, boots, back in the day, kidney belts, gloves, goggles, and you just haul ass for 40 minutes and then give yourself a 1 hour break. I'll give you an hour break and then do it
Mm.
again. It's like our triathletes. I mean, they're damn near naked on the bike. They're naked on the run, right? We have this little bit of lycra between ourselves and the sun, and then compare that to somebody racing motocross where you can't wick away the sweat because of all the gear, on top of a 600-degree motorcycle in 100% humidity, and sweat won't evaporate in a moist environment. I want to come back to just the idea that you've always taken an active role and responsibility up to and including what you just said, and you're still racing against kids half your age, almost a
So
third of your age.
it's actually kind of funny you said that, because like at my GT Arenacross is this kid named Kane. He's 16 years old, just turned 16. He doesn't even have a driver's license to drive, and he comes with his dad, obviously.
Yeah.
And these are the kids that I'm racing against. And this past weekend, we were in Springfield, Missouri, and I got third both nights, which I felt was pretty good. Michael Hicks got first, and Isaiah Clark got second. And Michael is a very, very talented rider and very well known. And he's 24, and I think Isaiah is 21, 22 years old. So they're just young kids. I'm 38 years old. I mean, I'm old enough to be their dad, or pretty close to it. So just me racing these kids, it's still pretty good. And at the same time, like, they don't want to get beat by me because I'm the old guy, and I want to try to beat them. So at the end of the day, it makes for a good race, and it makes entertainment really good. So, like you were saying, though, it's all about how you physically can take care of your body, and a lot of it is the mental too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not mentally like strong and tough, this sport will eat you up. Even as good as you think you are, you can never be that great, and you always got to keep yourself humble, because you always got to strive, right, to be better than you were yesterday. Striving to be a better person, a better athlete, and mentally be stronger, because this sport, I swear, it's very physical. Everybody's in good shape. It's the guy who's the most mentally toughest is going to win.
You have a daughter that's just a couple years shy of when you got your first Honda contract.
Yeah, give or take, yeah, 3 to 5 years.
How do you, obviously, you get to look back now because you are Mike Alessi. How did you even begin to embrace the pressure that came being full factory Honda? Obviously, you had a lot of good results, but there's a difference between getting some results and then getting that big contract. I'm assuming it's a pretty lucrative contract. Your dad was talking about you guys got so many bikes, you had to get an airplane hangar. You
Yeah, it's
dynoed all of them.
yeah, 40 bikes. Me and my brother and I, we had 40 bikes, and it's kind of funny too, like the rotation of the bikes. And my dad, he was like a human dyno. So what he would do, and I'm sure he probably elaborated, he would take all 40 bikes, right, and ride them up and down the driveway. We're out in the middle of nowhere in Victorville, Apple Valley, in the desert, and he's trying to figure out which one's the most powerful stock bike, and he would put that bike to the side for Loretta's, so it was a good one. And I remember, I want to say the bike was like 21 or 22 stock, which stock is like almost unheard of to have that kind of power on a stock 85. And yeah, we had 40 of them. And then we take all the bikes that were maybe not the best ones. And then those ones we'd turn into the modified 85 or the Super Mini. And just my dad was just committed. He was driven. And I just think that kind of resonates right with myself. And I can't really speak for my brother, obviously, but for myself, it was like, I just knew I wanted it at a young age, and I was willing to put in the work and the time and the effort. And in this sport, you cannot fake the effort, and it shows on Saturday or wherever you're racing, give or take, at the amateur level, even all the way up to the pros. You see the dudes that are putting in the work because they're the ones getting the results. And if you're not putting the work in, it's going to show on race day.
How does an 11, 12-year-old, how do you even begin to mentally prepare for that kind of, I don't want to keep using the word pressure, but I think for the listeners, that's what they would normally describe it as is, okay, I've
It's
got this Honda
it's a
contract. There's
it's a
pressure.
it's a want. It's all about, it's what's in here. It's what you want, your drive, your desire, and your willingness to go and get it.
Did
And
you see it as
no,
pressure or did you embrace it?
I always thrived under pressure. So
Okay.
it didn't hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And pressure was always, I felt better for me. At a young age, it's a drive, it's a dedication. You got to have that heart, that willingness, that drive, that dedication to not take no shit. You just got
Yes.
to go for it, and you're either built with that and born with it, or not. You either
So do
have
you
it or you
believe
don't.
you believe you were born with it? It was not something
I,
that, I mean, obviously your dad emulated a lot of integrity, hard work, like you say, human dyno. Was that, because I mean, like you say, the fire in the belly, and I'm on public record as saying this. I'm not saying it because I'm speaking with Mike Alessi, but I'm on public record, and I've actually gotten into some arguments with the GOAT that champions are born, not built. Excuse me, they're built, not born. And what I mean by that is I would much rather take someone like yourself who has all the fire in the belly with less talent than someone with a boatload of talent and no heart and no desire. That's my biased opinion, and I'm on public record of saying that. For you, you sound like you had it in your belly. Obviously, the skill set was there. Dad was big on structure and accountability. What would you, because you're Michael Alessi, how would you contribute your success but before you're even 15 years old?
I honestly straight up believe you're born with it.
Mm,
You're either born with it or you're not. That ability to, it's God's gift that He's giving to you, Rob, to go ride a motorcycle and go hit a 65-foot triple and a
mm-hmm.
set of whoops wide open. And if I went down the street and asked Joe Blow walking down the street, hey, throw this helmet and knee pads on, go hit that Supercross set of whoops, they would have no idea how to do it, or they would crash, probably
Mm-hmm.
more likely, um, and never do it again. So,
Right.
I mean, no offense to Ricky, he's the GOAT. You're born with your talent, or you're not. Because
Yeah, see, that's,
go ahead.
excuse me. No, go ahead. Excuse me. I interrupted you.
I was just gonna say, if I was born a football player, I'd be in the NFL. If I was born an NBA dude, I'd be throwing baskets and like LeBron James. I'm not that guy. I'm not built that way because I wasn't born with that gene in my body.
See, I find that you're such a unique breed because in my experience doing this for 41 years, I've always had more success, and I've said this publicly as well. Whenever I'm interviewing a new client, particularly anybody that's still in school, I always ask, how easy does school come for you? If they say easy, I always warn them, you run the risk of getting bit by the complacency syndrome because you're so good, everything comes easy. You don't have that dedication and that discipline to push through when you get pushed back. And I guess the best example today would be a Cooper Webb who watched AC. Everybody called him Baby Jesus, right? He's on hand-built bikes by Mitch. And Cooper's riding a clapped out bike on a clapped out track when his dad's surf shop is closed. And AC's dad's driving him around the country, even riding at RC's place. And
Mm.
yet, look at Cooper Webb today. He's got more
Still racing.
championships. Yep, still racing. And look at even as recent as last year, Pitbull in the fight to the end. Not that AC doesn't have the fire. That's not what I'm insinuating, because AC to this day was him and Ashley Filick were two of my hardest workers of all time. Maybe Ian Treadle would be in between the two of them. Absolutely the hardest workers I've ever had. But it's an interesting mix because usually someone like yourself who's got tremendous talent, usually doesn't have the work ethic, and the one that has the work ethic isn't blessed with the greatest amount of talents. But as the old saying goes, hard work will always supersede the most naturally talented. You had the fire in the belly, and you're extremely skilled on a dirt bike. I don't think it's a surprise that you had as much success as you've had as an amateur and a professional. Do you agree or disagree with a comment like that?
I agree. And it's kind of funny you say that because when I was at Honda, when I was just a kid, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't know who said it. It was like 2002, 2003 when I was on Honda, and we were at the Honda convention. God, I have to think the name. Um, Cliff something.
Cliff White.
I think that's it. Yes,
Mm.
that's the name. And he said we would take the more hardworking guy, Carmichael, over the more talented guy, Wyndham, every day of the week because hard work is always going to outshine the talent.
And again, not because I'm speaking to Mike Alessi, but you're one of the very few that I've seen in almost any sport. We have four verticals of business. We have an endurance division, which is cyclists, triathletes, and runners, now gravel bike. We have a speed and agility, which is ball and stick sports, a weight loss division, and a motorsports division. And you're one of the few across all the sports that we've seen that has been born with a mixture of both and actually did something with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it so unique. The, when did you turned pro at a very young age?
Oh, 4, 16. I'm the youngest rider in history to be on the 450 podium at 16 years old, 2 months.
What
Two,
race
three
was that
months.
at, Mike?
Steel City in
Steel
'04.
City.
It was
Okay.
Carmichael was first. He had just won the championship. He was on that 24-0 season. And obviously he went 1-1. Wyndham was I don't know. Got second, and then I was third overall with a 5-4. And yeah, I was 16 years old, 2 or 3 months, whatever. I was May, June, July, August. So yeah, 16 years old, 3 months. And that's like a record that will probably stand forever because most everybody that comes in now, they're like 17, 18 years old and they go
Right.
250 class. They don't go to the 450 classes. They're rookie
That's a
first
good
first
point.
race and or second race. I flopped it at Millville and did bad. Came back 2 weeks later, leave the believe the hype shirts at home and went there and got two good starts and was consistent 5-4 for third overall.
So if I'm a camera, I'm a fly on the wall after Millville. Where's Mike's head? You talked about that mental toughness.
Mm.
Embarrassed, irritated, motivated, frustrated. How would you describe Mike Alessi's thoughts after Millville?
Well, I knew I was riding good because I was in fifth with 2 laps to go in Millville, and then the bike locked up. So I knew I had the speed and the talent, but I wasn't very happy with the motorcycle after Millville. I had told my dad from the beginning, I'm like, I don't like this bike. I would rather ride my Loretta bike
Mm-hmm.
from the weekend before that I had just won at Loretta's. And so we went to Steel City and rode that bike at Steel City. And I don't know if it's possible, but how do you turn the camera? Is it possible to turn the camera on this? Yeah, right here, I think. I'll show you. It's kind of funny.
There you
Walk
go.
through. This is my trophy room.
Nice.
And there she is right there.
Oh, yes. Check it out.
That's the bike that I rode and raced. That's the gear. And
Nice.
I got Kevin Wyndham's roost and Carmichael from the second moto.
There you
And
go.
yeah,
Now,
that's
did that bike literally rolled off the track and onto that podium, onto that stand right there?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of got ridden pretty hard from family members and stuff like that who've been sitting in a storage bin. But
But it
yeah,
didn't
that's
get. It's not like all the parts got taken off because, like, I know when I was
nope.
working with Dunge, when you walked into his living room, he had his championship Suzuki and his championship KTM, and it was pretty cool to see that. But unfortunately, it was pretty much a hollow bike, because
Yeah.
now, so that's incredible. What other bikes do you have in there, Mike? Or
This is
that's
my
your
my two stroke. Yep. And
okay?
move this yoga mat.
Is that the one that you ran at World Vets?
Yes, sir. This is the one that I won 2020 when it had the pandemic.
Yep.
And yeah, this is that bike. And Yeah, my dad got it all built, and it's fast. She's fast. And then this is my 450 for Daytona here at the end of the month.
Nice.
I just put the suspension on today, so people are probably wondering why I got the bike in my living room. Hey, I got spare tire. That's my race.
There you
Who's
go.
your tire ready to go for
Nice.
the race? Freshy, good to go. And yeah, just this is my
Nice.
trophy room, and gotta believe the hype shirt there,
Yeah.
and a
How
couple
many
of
of those
cool
shirts do you
trophies.
still have around?
I got that one and one more up in my closet. And then these are my three favorite trophies. So this is obviously the one from Steel City when I got on the podium with
Third
Carmichael and
place.
Wyndham. Yeah, that one. That's
Okay.
that's what changed. I mean, if it wasn't for that day, I mean, I don't know where my career may have gone. So that was a
Okay.
huge moment. And then obviously my first overall was High Point in '05 with Mike Brown and Millsaps, which that was the turning point of being somewhat of a winner and being able to do the sport. And then my third favorite trophy is when
What was
I
that third
raced.
trophy?
Yeah, this is the McGrath Trophy when I raced him at um, a race that McGrath was at as a Supercross race, and I remember battling him. And after the race, I got his jersey, and yeah, he was not too happy with the way I was riding him, but I was like, yeah, Can I still get your jersey? And yeah, he gave it to me, so that was pretty cool. And he's like,
That's very cool.
you got to respect your elders a little more. You're riding me a little hard and aggressive because I had to pass him, and I
Sure.
had to make the pass, and I was just a 15-year-old kid that I wanted to win. Just I just yeah, I didn't care. Piss and vinegar. But now that
Right.
I'm older, now I kind of like understand it because the kids that I'm racing at Arenacross, they kind of throw it in there from time to time, and like they have a little more respect for me. They're not willing to do the aggressive riding. They'll throw it in, but they won't make contact, which is what I
Yeah.
appreciate. Like I don't want to get busted up on Saturday and then not be able to go home Sunday to my girls. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Uh, that Believe the Hype shirt. You go to Millville, things don't pan out the way you want. If I could download Mike Alessi's thoughts, either leaving the track all the way home, I don't know if you had to fly or drive back home. I don't know what your situation was then, but download me your thoughts. Where does Mike Alessi go the next morning after a weekend like that?
Trying to think. That was 2004. That was over 20 years ago. I know we drove home because we were renting a house in Wabasha, which was 20 minutes from the track. And I remember I had to do weed whacking for the Martins who owned the track. And for every hour I weed whacked, I got 10 minutes of riding time on the track. So obviously Millville didn't go good. So it's part of racing and things happen. But we loaded up and we were back on the road Monday, back from Minnesota to California, kind of regrouped. And I mean, my dad he was mad, obviously, but he knew that the potential was there because we had just passed Villeman and Tortelli in that second moto to get into fifth. So it wasn't like I started second or third and went backwards. I got like a fifth or eighth place start and then charged up. They may have passed me and then I passed them back. So the potential was there, and we just need to kind of have a regroup, get home, and then quietly showed up at Steel City and didn't really tell anybody and got the job done. And I remember that night KTM had the contract, and for me, I was 16 years old, 3 months, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this or not, but I'm pretty sure the number was like 300 or $400,000, like as a 16-year-old.
At
And
16, what were win bonuses?
I think the win bonuses were like 35 or 45,000, but it wasn't even about the bonuses, right? At the moment, it
Mm-hmm.
was like I was 16 years old and we had knew, right, the potential to be a podium guy if things worked out. And I remember talking to KTM, and the contract was, hey, if you can be top 10, this is what your salary will be X. If you can be top 5, this is what your salary is. And if you can go get podium in the 450 class against Carmichael at 16 years old, your number will be a big X. And I remember I got the podium, and that night I got the contract and we signed it. And it was just like all that hard work, the dedication, the grind. It was like, okay, it paid off. Even though we got the contract, it wasn't like, well, we got the contract, now we can just relax and, we made it. You never just made it, right? That's when the real work begins. And then the next year going into 05, I remember I started out good. Me and Grant had that altercation. Obviously, I had the moto win until the last corner, and we came together, and his foot was completely turned. In the history of racing, Rob, and you probably quote me, I don't believe I have ever seen the overall winner not be able to make it to the press conference at the podium because he broke his ankle and his leg. And that's history. He literally broke or twisted his ankle and dislocated it, and then over the finish line, straight to the medics and gone to the hospital because he was hurt. And that season, like I started out well. Then the very next week at High Point, I won, which I got that trophy, and had a weird kind of like, whatever you want to call it, like a slump in the mid part of the season. I was a rookie, obviously, which is acceptable and understandable. But then after the slump happened, and we had the 3-week break because Loretta's was happening, I went to work. I was working. I was doing like 3 or 4 40-minute motos in the desert with Kurt Caselli on a bumpy, rough, dry track out in the middle of nowhere desert. And um, came out to Millville and got second overall behind Grant. Then the next week at Binghamton, went 1-2 for the overall. Then to Steel City, and I went 2-2 behind Hepler. And it was like I went from a 70-point deficit to Ivan down to 35 points at the final round. And it was like, wow, we're not in this, but like if there's a problem, we might actually have a chance. And KTM was like, we're going all in. And we won the first moto at Glen Helen. And then obviously Ivan had that freak bike accident where his chain popped off, got no points. So we went from 35 down to 10. And it was like, this could happen. I mean, this really could happen at 16 years old. And yeah, then everybody knows what happened that last moto. I just lost my mind and was like, I want to win the championship right now on the first lap. And yeah, I just lost my mind and had that all kind of like, if I could go back and kind of do it all over again, it would have been like, and you're really putting me back 20 years right now, Rob. Like I'm really like, I'm getting like kind of emotional because I'm like in that moment.
Sure.
I'm on the starting gate. I'm next to Grant's on my right. I got Matt Walker on my left, teammates of Pro Circuit for Ivan. So it was like the last moto, they did whatever they could to put me behind. And I remember off the gate, we were rubbing elbows and bumping. I'm literally like a pinball off of both of them going up the start straightaway at Glen Helen. I was so mad that I just wanted to be out front. I knew if I could just get to the front, I had the best chance at winning the overall and the championship because let's be honest, the Pro Circuit guys, they were going to have to slow down and let Ivan by to give him those points. And now looking back on it, if I had just known that 16-year-old Mike Alessi, 17 years old I was, it'd be like, man, just race the freaking race and what's going to happen and pan out will happen. Everything that's going to happen will happen. And I lost my mind on the first lap and I just wanted to win the championship. And even to this day, like Ivan and I are good friends. We don't hold no grudges. Like I was just a kid making stupid mistakes and he understands it. And, for myself, looking back, I would have just raced the race and let the chips fall where they may. And hindsight, I probably had a very good chance at winning the championship that day had I just raced the race and just focused on just winning. And instead of trying to do aggressive, dirty riding against my opponent. And Live and learn, right? That was over 20 years ago. And now what I know, I would have done back then. It's like, can't change it, but you can learn from it.
And that's why I appreciate you giving the insight that you have, because you've mentioned that from the beginning, even from the beginning of this conversation, you talked about the difference of being physically capable, but being mentally tough. I think it's interesting because you talk about it so nonchalantly. For us as spectators and fanboys of the sport, 16 years old, 17 years old, and this is the world you're living in, right? This is the situation you're in. I mean, that's when the fans and the listeners listen to what we watched on TV, what we witnessed in person, and we think about ourselves at 16 years old, and you talk about the idea of losing your mind. Most of us didn't have the mental maturity to even be in a position like that. We would have pooped the bed before the gate dropped and probably not even been in contention. I want to back the train up just a little bit because it ties into what you said in the first 10 minutes of the show. I've always said over and over again, when you go pro, that's when the work begins. And you said the exact same thing. And I've always been somewhat humored by the idea that so many athletes will work so hard in the amateur ranks, but by the time they go pro, they've already overtrained, they've smoked their adrenals, they've got nowhere to go but backwards. We've seen it with, unfortunately, quite a few of the riders that had stellar amateur careers. You're one of the few that had a stellar amateur career and then still kept going after that, unfortunately. You made a comment, and the reason I was asking about the bonuses, and you actually have no idea how on point your comment was. I've always said you don't go to the gym and get in shape and then stop going to the gym because you're in shape. You don't become a millionaire and then stop trying to become a millionaire. You keep building on it. And here you are, 16 years old. You've got that contract, nice six-figure contract. You've got bonuses, and those bonuses come because of what you've done for the last decade, not what you did in the last 10 weeks. When you're sitting there and you realize you've got a comfortable salary, you've got good win bonuses, and I love how the fact that you're already jumping into the idea of championship. I'm going to win this championship. Age is not an issue for you. It's like, all right, I've done this my whole career. I'm on public record of saying, Herschel Walker back in the day when ESPN used to actually report on news. Remember when ESPN would actually show and talk about the actual activities from the weekend? I remember Herschel Walker got interviewed, and the guy asked him, he said, why don't you celebrate when you get in the end zone? And he looks right in the camera and he goes, because that's what I get paid to do. The guys that celebrate are not there very often, so there's a novelty to it. He's like, that's what I get paid to do, so why should I be very, vocal about it? And I was like, wow. When I listened to that as a young man, I got punched straight in the nose. I was like, that's powerful. That's what it sounds like with you. The contract was good. The contract was certainly justifiable. That's, what'd you say, 16 and 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we think about you at 16 and 3 months, and now it's not about if I'm going to get a contract, that box is checked. You've got good win bonuses, and that's what winners get, are bonuses.
Mm.
When you talk about going away from the disappointment of Millville, you obviously picked yourself up by the bootstraps. 2 weeks later, you win Steel City, or you get third at Steel City, excuse me.
Yep.
2 weeks later, you get your over. Where's your headspace? Are you frustrated, disappointed? And the word that I always get asked after whenever I do these interviews is, where does fear fit into all of this? Were you ever fearful of not winning, or were you just, because we'll always say a lot of people are more afraid of losing than they are winning, and champions are more focused on winning than worrying about losing. And I don't want to get into a cliche spin fest, but where's Mike Alessi's head from Millville to that third place?
So obviously I was 16 years old, just a child, really, just a kid, not even a kid, still a baby, still waiting to go through puberty. And I feel like the mindset it was all in, like it was kill or be killed. And going to Steel City, it was one of those things where we were all in, and even for myself. And kind of looking back on it, like it was one of those moments where, yeah, if you didn't succeed, like I don't know where my career may have gone had I not done that and gambled on myself. And I just remember Honda saying, you can go ride to 450, but we're not going to support it, and we're not going to give you help for the 2005 season. And we were testing the 250 before Millville, and I wasn't very happy with it. And I told him, like, straight up, I'm not comfortable in this. I don't feel like this motorcycle is going to be what I need to be a podium guy. And I bet on myself at Millville and flopped it. Came back um, and made it happen. And a lot of people say my career has been a failed career. I mean, by some other reporters in this industry, but if you call that a failed career, and having a beautiful house and my girl Bella right there laying down, and
Nice.
I got my wife, my two girls, and if this is a failed career, then yeah, I'll take it all day long. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a happy man. I have my wife and my kids, and there's nothing more else that I need. I still love racing dirt bikes, and um, yeah, it's who I am. I'm on 30 acres, and out in middle of Jacksonville, Florida, and it's peacefulness, quiet. You hear birds, and yeah, this is not saying I have the best life or the greatest life, but I have a good life, and I'm happy, and you know um, that makes me kind of, I guess, what you would say, rich, and and who I am and where I'm at.
When you talk about Honda, all the support that how many years, 11, 12 years old, you get that first contract. How many years were you on Honda?
It was 2001, so I'm born in '88, so I was, yeah, like 11 or 12 years old, something like that, 13,
And then
and
it was
and I
'04
wrote.
when you left them.
Yeah, so I was there '02, '03, and '04, so 3 years.
Okay.
And I went to Honda at the very end of '01. And then I was there 2002, 2003. Me and Villapoto battled. And then on the 85s. And then in '04, I went straight from. So at Loretta's in '03, I rode 85, 12 to 13, or 14 to 16, I think it's whatever it was, and Super Mini. And I raced Villapoto. He got second. I was first. And then 365 days later at Loretta's, I'm on a 450. So I went from 20 some horsepower, call it Super Mini 30 horsepower, straight to 50, almost 60 horsepower in less than a year, and on the podium with Carmichael and Wyndham. From Loretta's '03 to Loretta's '04, Millville, Steel City, the transition was quick. It was fast. And there, you look back, it was only a few, honestly, a handful of guys. And even Adam is included. I would say first one being probably Robbie Reynard at a very young age, having success. Then it was Carmichael, then Stewart, and then probably Davey, because he was barely 16 at his first Supercross, and then probably me. So probably the five youngest, and then including obviously Adam. We're like the 5, 6 youngest dudes to ever get the job done at a very young age, where today's day and age they're starting 17, 18, almost 19 years old, starting their careers. And it's just a different what's the word I'm looking for, a different time, right? We were just built different back then. I mean, I'm not saying that the families these days are rich, but it's definitely more country club, when you kind of look at it in a sense. Where back then, I can speak for RV, and I can speak for, in a sense, for Carmichael. Their parents didn't have money. My parents didn't have money. In order for us to eat, we had to race and win to put food on the table. And even at a young age, I'm sure for them, just like me, you had to get the job done. Otherwise, you weren't eating the next week. And the success had to happen because you were betting everything on it. Where today's world, the riders, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say who, this guy or that guy, but I'm definitely going to say that they come in with the wallet open and the master card and the Visa card with no limit to go racing. And it's just a different era than it was 20, 30 years ago.
How does a young man, 12 to 15 years old, carry the shoulder of food on the table is based on my results without cracking?
Well, a huge success of mine was my brother. I love my brother. I miss him all the time. Every morning, every night I see 8:01 on the clock and I'm like, he's there with me. He's saying good morning and good night. So it's like, and I had my brother, he had my back. He was always there. He was kind of like my goose and Maverick. He was my wingman. So like nobody would mess with me. And if like in a sense, like RV, I'm sure if you ever have him on the show, dude, he tried to get into it with me on the track and Jeff would take care of him. Like he was my wingman, and he protected me, and I was able to do the job and go win and put food on the table and a roof over our heads and have success. And obviously when you turn pro, it's obviously there's a lot more variables with a lot of fast guys, a lot of fast teams, and you don't have that kind of help as much anymore. It's all on you. In an early stage, we were kids, and it was like, yeah, we had to succeed to make it. And if we didn't, there was really no other backup plan. It was like there was one plan and one plan only.
Kind of reminds me of the Vikings, right? Burn the ship, so we have no alternative to go back.
There's no backup plan. There's only the plan, one plan.
And
And that's
what
what I
would
kind
you?
of alluded to back, is that you're born with it.
Mm-hmm.
You're born with it or you're not. And at a young age and success, it shows very quickly whether you have it or not in this industry, in this sport. Um, yeah, you can work on fundamentals with riding technique and your training and things like that. Like Carmichael was very good with having the strength and the endurance. And I mean, Ricky wasn't the most beautiful rider on the track. He didn't have the great technique. He just was strong and he was in shape and he just had the willingness to not lose ever. I remember when our RC was 2007, so it was like basically his last campaign of racing. And at Redbud, I was 19 years old on a KTM, and I was faster than him in practice by literally 1/10, maybe 2/10. My dad still has the picture and the paper on his wall showing I was faster than Carmichael in practice on a Saturday. Free practice, didn't count for nothing, just for lap times. And he came back because our pits were right across from each other with Suzuki, and he threw down the bike and his helmet and goggles. He was, storming and getting pissed. And I just remember, like, even just being second in a free practice was he just he hated it. Yeah, baby, what's up? I'm on the phone. Sorry.
No, no apologies. I love it. That's what being a dad's all about.
Come here.
When you look at, Carmichael's on public record, he's done some outside the industry interviews where he talked about he literally hated racing. Did you, like you said earlier, you thrived on the pressure? Would you say that you enjoyed it as you're looking back
Um,
from that 15 to 25?
so there was a point I was burnout. I was mentally, physically, I was done. And that was on the drive back from Canada in 2017. My wife and I, we were driving back, and we kind of were like, I think we're done. And I told her on the drive, I'm like, I think that's it. I kind of reached that point. I was 29, because I turned 30 the next year. We had Raina, and we were kind of at that point in our careers, in our lives, where we were, almost 30, and we wanted to have kids. And we kind of made a decision on the drive home. Was like, I'm done. I don't want to race no more. I'm burnt out. I'm not having fun with it. And yeah, that was kind of it. And then that was in August of 17, and we got pregnant in 17 in September, and then found out in October. And I remember the phone ringing, Christmas, December. And I remember Canada, Cowie was like, "Hey, you got a 3rd-year option on your contract. Do you want to, you gonna fulfill it and race, or you done?" And I was like, honestly, like, I'm kind of done, but that racer in me couldn't give it up. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm racing another year in 18. And I had been like thirds, fourths, fifths up there, which was decent, but it wasn't like I wasn't setting the world on fire. I wasn't winning. And then we had our daughter in right in between the break, a 3-week break in June. And I was so excited, so happy. I was like motivated again. And then I went down to ride with Roxon and Sexton and get some practice and some laps in. And I remember we're on the starting gate and Kenny goes, "Hey boys, get your cameras out. I'm about to get the whole shot over the whole shot master right now. You want to get this on film?" And I look over, I'm like, "This motherfucker, okay." I'm like, "Watch this, watch this." And I get to start over him and Sexton and going into like the first or second turn. And then there was a basic roller that you kind of had to scrub. And I scrubbed it just whatever too hard and ended up crashing, did my labrum. And yep.
High
And
speed.
that was literally a week after this one was born.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, so it was like the highest of highs, so excited, so happy to be a dad. And then, training, trying to prepare for the next race, and I get hurt.
Mm.
And the season was over. And then I was motivated to run and really work hard again because we had our daughter Raina. Is like, I don't know, something in me just clicked. I just was wanting to work hard again, and I wanted to go and prove that I can still win. And went to Canada and got the most overalls, won the most motos, led the most laps, got the most hole shots. And after that 19 season, I got second to my teammate, who is considered the Canada GOAT, which is Colton Falciati, a great rider, great dude. And I went to all the teams. I'm like, "Hey, I got second to the greatest of all time in Canada, and he's retiring. Like, you got a spot on my team." And every team's like, "No, our roster's full. We already got our guys for next year." And right then and there, I kind of realized, okay, like, I'm not Canadian, so I'm not going to get a ride with these teams. And then the next year was 2020. The pandemic happened, and the world kind of whatever shut down, and just the scamdemic that happened. And um, after that, I kind of found my niche with Arenacross and doing the GT series in the Midwest, which is Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing since the pandemic, and doing that in 21, 22, 23, 24. I didn't do it in 25 because I worked a regular job in 25 last year, training kids and that kind of stuff. And kind of made me open my eyes that, I'm still a racer. Like, I still want to race. And I came back this year and doing the series. And I missed the first 2 rounds. Obviously, the first one I was in Dominican Republic in November. And then I had family from England here for Christmas, which was the second round. So I missed that round as well. So I picked everything back up in January. And ever since I came back, like, surprisingly, I was right back on the podium and contending for wins and fast laps. And I won a bracket race, which was a head-to-head 2 weeks ago. And this past weekend, I was on the podium both nights, Friday and Saturday night, with thirds. So it's like, as much as I want to stop and I tell myself I'm done, my wife always jokes. She's like, "You're never going to be done. You're never going to stop." And I tell her, I'm like, I'm dead serious. I'm the kind of man who, I say what I'm going to do and I freaking do it.
Yeah.
Like, if I know I can get on the podium at 16 years old with Carmichael and Wyndham, like, I'm going to do it.
Mm.
And I told her, I'm going to go till 40, done. Already told myself 2 more years and then that's it. Sell the bike, sell the gear, helmets, boots, done. After that, going to just start the next chapter of my life and be a dad, be a husband, and just, I mean, I am now. I just want to be that dad and that husband that is just always there and always around and present, because I don't want to miss those moments, because by that time the girls are going to be getting close to teenage years, and or at least Raina will. And I want to be that good dad that, like, puts them in a good direction.
Absolutely.
And she is very, very, very talented on gymnastics. We have a gymnastics set in our it's my gym room right there. That's a gym room,
Okay.
and it's got full gymnastics swings and sets and the bars and the beam. So she is just. I want to focus on maybe that being something that she can progress at and get better with age.
I love it. Hey, real quick, you mentioned getting burnt out. And like you said, you're 38 years old and still in great shape, and that's what I always love about motocrossers is I can take you and tomorrow we can go do a triathlon. We can go do a mountain bike race, a gravel bike race, run a half marathon. We can do anything, right? where I can't always say that with our professional triathletes. If you give them a bike that doesn't even have an electric start, they probably couldn't get it started. And they certainly couldn't go 3 laps around.
One second. One second.
Yep.
Fake.
What's up?
Is Santa real or fake?
Santa's right there. There's one of his elves that we haven't put away from Christmas.
I love it.
Uh,
We got the $1 million question live
Santa's real or
on
fake?
Meet the Guest next chapter.
Raina, yes, he's real. All you gotta do is just know that he comes and he's a good man. And look at her face. Look at her face.
I love it. That's awesome. If that doesn't validate that we don't script these shows, nothing does. I don't think ever will I have somebody ask if Santa's real on Meet the Guest. That was next level.
Yeah, mom's at work while I'm on dad duty.
Gotcha.
Diane.
Well, I
What?
appreciate you doing this, and so does all the subscribers. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's
Look at that.
is that Elfie?
Don't touch him.
Yeah, he should
I
be put
love it.
away. He usually goes away for Christmas time.
Will you just?
Hey, why don't you girls let me do my interview real quick, and then I'll.
Yeah.
What do you mean AI? Okay, close the door. Close the door, please.
When you were talking about no apologies, please. You're being a dad. I think it's awesome. Nothing better than being
Okay.
your children's dad. When you looked at the idea of when you and your bride were driving back home and you're like, I'm done, was that more of a physical burnout or a mental burnout?
Mental.
Okay, because I look at
Yeah.
you now and you're so fit. Like that's what I was teasing. I can't take one of my professional triathletes and give him your motorcycle without an electric start. Expect him to kick start it and be able to go around the track 5 times. So the physical always being there, you can get on your hands and knees and you can still wrestle with your daughters. You can go in the gymnastics room and you can still do things with them there. And you just answered the question, and I want to give you a chance to talk about it. How do you know the difference between you physically burnt out versus mentally burnt out? What was your experience with the mental burnout?
So I've actually had it twice in my career. So in 2011, when I was on the 350, and I was helping to debut that in 2010 at Hangtown, we won a moto, which is historic, right? Nobody can ever say in this industry right now has ever won on a 350 on American soil ever. And I'm the one and only rider to do that at Hangtown in 2010. And riding that motorcycle, man, it was the funnest bike to ride. It was the worst bike to race, though, against 450 factory bikes, right? It's like a pocket knife against a sword fight. You're going to lose every time. And I remember after the 2011 season, they were replacing me at KTM with Dungey. And that's when Dungey went to KTM. And I kind of left me out in the cold because they weren't hiring a second guy. And so I had to kind of figure out what was next for me and if I was going to still race. And I found my niche with Mike Genova and Moto Concepts, which has been a blessing to me. And I honestly still talk and look at Mike Genova as a father, and he's a good man, a great man. And after that 11 season, I was kind of mentally done. I was at that same point that I kind of had when I was driving back from Canada in 2017 with my wife. I just mentally was done, popped over it, and ready to throw in the towel. And that was in August. My wife and I got married in September of that year. And I think we spent 30 grand on a wedding in Catalina Island that we loved. It was amazing, beautiful wedding. And we bet on ourselves to go get married. And after we got married, I was at September. And then next month was the Monster Cup, which was back then the whatever. I think it was still the Monster Cup, or it was the first year of the $1 million thing that they were doing at Vegas.
Yep.
And we put together a Suzuki, and in literally like 2 weeks time, a bike, engine, and we went racing, and we qualified, I think, second behind Villapoto in practice. So it was like the validation was there that we still have the talent, we have the speed. And that night, Genova signed me for the 2012 season. I think it was $150,000 contract, and it was the lowest I had ever ridden a motorcycle for, ever in my career. And it was just a testament of the times that we were kind of faced with not having good results in the 10 and 11 season. And we were willing to bet on ourselves, went to Monster Cup, um, and then I put my head down, and I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was 170, almost 180. And I had never been in the 70s in my life. Like, I've always been a little guy, 150s, 160s. And I don't know. I just kind of just I don't know if I want to say let myself go, but it was a testament to my mental being done. It showed in my physical that season. My wife's calling, but we're going to hit the red button on that one. She's probably let me know she's getting off work. Yeah, it's 4:00. And I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Just about betting on yourself. You got the
Bet,
Genova, and you'd
yeah,
signed for such a low contract value.
yes, and we had just gotten married in September, and I was 175 ish, almost 180, and I'd never been that big in my life. And I was like, instantly after I got the contract, it was like, okay, now it's time to go back to work. And I remember we were calorie counting, and the nuts and the almonds and the shakes and the eggs and the everything had to be the calorie count. And I remember I was like 1,800 calories a day, and I started slimming weight. And I remember when I got to the lowest I had gotten to, which was when I battled Dungy, and I beat Dungy the first moto at Washougal 2012. I was like 154, 155, and that was like the lowest I'd gotten back down to, was like those mid to low 50s. And and then after that, it was I don't know, you start putting back on weight again, but whatever. Like, I had dedicated myself from that October to whatever that was, August, July at Washougal. And it took that many months of hard work, training, running. I never liked running. I really didn't. I never did, even as a kid. And I found myself running in the mornings, and I would wear a big, heavy 10-pound vest, and I'd run for 30 minutes in the mornings. I was like self-motivated, self-dedicated, and didn't have a trainer. I just was doing it all off like everything I had learned in the last, call it 5 to almost 10 years of training and doing it. And yeah, I was motivated, and I had my best season that 2012 season. I was 6th in Supercross and 2nd in outdoors, and still to date right now, that's my best overall combined season of my professional career. Was 6th in Supercross, 2nd in motocross at Dunge, and I did it all based on the mindset of the will that I wanted to be that guy again. I didn't want to go out my career being that guy that was 5th to 10th place, and just I wanted to be that guy again. And I came back the next year and battled Dungy, got a moto win. Was very close to an overall that day. We swapped motos 1-2, 2-1, and yeah, it just shows like you put your mind to it, the drive, the dedication, and it comes back. And then obviously my career kind of I was getting older, and then I transitioned to Canada in 16, 17, and 18. And same thing in 17. Like I said, when I was driving home with my wife, I was just mentally just over it. And you just build yourself up again. And sometimes rest is a big part of the recovery. A lot of riders don't understand that you go, 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 and then you finally just physically blow up. And you have to sometimes take that necessary time to just get away, relax, rest, and try to find that drive and that motivation again. And I feel like that's what I did in 11, and then I did again in 17. And even for myself right now, it's 2026 in February, and I'm still having more fun now. I feel like I'm having more fun now than I probably ever have because I'm doing what I want, how I want, when I want, and I get to take my wife with me to the races on the weekend. We get a little away time from the kids while doing some racing, and I'm having fun. I'm 163, 165 pounds, and I'm not that 150s anymore, but I'm not 180s. So it's like I'm a dad. I got that dad bod, but I'm still pretty trim. I still got a six pack, and I'm still in physically good shape. And I take care of my health, and I take care of my mental health. And I train when I feel like I'm okay. I'm ready to do my rowing today. I do my rowing sessions, 1,000 meters at 4 minutes or less, and those things will kick your ASS like bad. Like you want a hard workout, and you go do the 1,000 meters in 4 minutes or less 4 times with 4 minute rest in between each set. And I swear to God, you put a trash can next to the rowing machine, you're gonna need it. You're gonna end up possibly throwing up. And yeah.
When you talked about, and this is, I love and appreciate your insights to the listener, because I'm always a big believer that the mental gets run essentially dry because of the physical overload. And like you say, the season just keeps getting progressively longer and longer. So there is less downtime. And I firmly believe that's the big catalyst behind a big attrition rate in our sport.
Yeah.
Like there's less and less recovery time. So the burnout rate comes sooner. And you do see, like yourself, you end up tapping out. And unfortunately, in our sport, once you tap out, it's not like someone's like, yeah, we'll just pause this contract for 2 years, let you get your stuff regrouped, and then we'll come back. No, ship sailed.
Yep. In this sport, straight up, to the listeners and the viewers, yeah. Once you're done, you're done. You're not coming back. Like you try to take 6 months off to a year, it's not happening. It's not happening. The train will leave the station, and as my dad told me years ago, and I was a kid, just like all these riders and these team industries and the mechanics, you're just a tool to these industry people. They can go right into the toolbox and go grab another T handle, another wrench. You're just another rider that they can go pluck from anywhere else, right? And you just get replaced. So yeah, it's simple facts, and it's the truth, and the truth hurts. But a lot of riders and a lot of the kids and the viewers, they don't want to hear it.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, hard work will always shine through.
Yep, I totally agree. I've kept you for an hour and 15. I have some 5 rapid fire questions. You ready for it?
Ready? Fire. Let's go.
If you if you came with a warning label, what would it say?
A warning label.
Yep, if you came with a warning label, what would it say? Or what would your bride say your warning label should say?
Probably that I overthink too much of everything.
Mm. It seems to work out for you though.
In a way.
Yeah.
I
In a
do
way.
overthink, but as a racer, you're methodically always thinking, it's like everybody else is playing checkers, you're playing chess, and in your mind, you're always trying to angle and pursue what's the best option and what's going to make you better. And she's definitely right. I think too much, but I'm also able to have the things that we have and the houses that we have, and we have 4 properties that we have rentals on and that we own. So I guess if I'm an overthinker, and as some of the industry media people would say, a failed career, I guess then this is a pretty nice failed career.
Amen to that. What's your 3 non-negotiables?
Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal.
Amen.
I strive myself on that, and I'm a good man. I don't lie, I don't cheat, and I don't steal. I'm always a good man, and that's it. That's who I am.
Who's your favorite non-moto hero?
David Bailey, straight up, number one.
I think you answered this one a little bit earlier. What advice would you give a younger Mike Alessi?
There's Avery.
Hi, Avery.
She just got out of the hot tub.
There you go.
Hey,
She's doing some
baby.
contrast therapy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was the question?
What advice would you give to a younger Mike Alessi?
Well, kind of like we alluded to on the 05 season, just work hard, let the results come, and work hard, strive to win. And if you can't win, shoot for the moon, and at least you'll land among the stars.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I can't thank you enough. I know the listeners are going to really enjoy this. Thank you for working us into your daddy time, and congratulations on a stellar career. And it's still going, which is so incredible. A testimony to being in shape, both mentally and physically, and good balance.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock, right? I'm looking at the clock. It's 4:30, and this one's about ready to take a nap. And we got gymnastics at 5:30. So probably give her a little 30-minute nap till 5, and then we gotta start getting ready. And I'm like a full-time dad now. I take the girls to school, pick them up she gets out at 12, Raina gets out at 2, so get a couple hours of downtime, do the homework, all that kind of stuff in between, and then gymnastics is 5:30 to 6:30. So I try to do my training while they're in school, from call it 8 to 12, and I get my training in and just enough. And like my dad always said, is at least if you're doing something is better than nothing. When you start doing nothing, then you get complacent and then you get lazy. And I'm definitely not that kind of person. I'm always striving to do something, even if it's just 10 minutes, 15 minutes of stretching, just something. It's better than nothing. And to the viewers, if you want to succeed in this sport, you keep working, and the results will pay off. That's all you can do. That's the only thing that you can control. And I say this my whole life, right? You, Rob, cannot physically make me move my finger. Only I can. So the power is within you.
And we will wrap it up on that. That is so profound. Mike, thank you so much. Thank your wife. Thank your children for allowing us to have this time. On behalf of Complete Med Solutions, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the nice comments. Thank you for this support. And we will see you guys next month.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, Rob.
Meet the Guest. Next chapter. Part of the Coach Robb Podcast Network.